back up to the year off, the gap year.
Mm-hmm.
What were you doing to stay up on your game? Or were you?
It's still just playing. You know, that was consistent with me. You know, it's just like a way of life. So by 19, 20 years old, I didn't know anything outside of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did. You know, I would work in the morning, and then when I would get off of work, we would just play basketball the rest of the night. You know, we find little rec gyms, little dingy gyms in the city that we play in, and that was just what we did.
Did you know you was going back to school to play ball?
I did. Yep. I never thought for a minute, yeah, you know what, you're done with basketball or you're done with college. I knew that I was going back to school. I didn't know how, but I knew I was going back. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how did you make it to this college?
So I went, my coach, my high school, like mentor, his name is Mr. Bill Williams, and there was another guy named Larry Waiters. They run a youth program in Philadelphia. And they recommended me, and I went, and I was there, and man, so I'm there, right? I'm there. And I had to just kind of get reacclimated to college again because I was a worker for a year, and it's just a different vibe altogether. Yeah, it's different. But I also excelled academically because I was a worker. So I'm like, oh, this is sweet in a way because you don't gotta like do what I gotta do. All I gotta do is go to school and get 3 meals a day. And
light work.
Go to parties with my friends, right, and be on the team. I'm cool. Yeah, this is easy. Yep. Mm-hmm. So that's how it went for me. At least starting out there. Mm-hmm.
Did you play ball there?
I did.
How was that?
Good and bad. Like the bad was ugly.
Let's start with that. Let's start with the ugly first.
Start with the ugly. Mm-hmm. So I got back to school and I promised my grandmother. I said, "Well, I'm going to see if I can get a 4.0 GPA because I want to really prove to everybody that I'm like smart and I'm back."
That's a strong promise.
I know, but I like a good check. So, but I did it, right? I promised my grandmother and I promised her and I got it. And that was like my first, I only went for 1 semester. So we came home for the summer. And the day my mom came to pick me up from school when we got back, we got evicted. Right. So that was one situation. And then, so I moved back to my grandmother's house. So it's just she and I living there. Mm-hmm. And she gets diagnosed with cancer. Now, my grandmother was the love of my life. So she's got cancer. You know, we're evicted. My mom and they're going to move somewhere else. And then my cousin, who was like a brother to me, the guy who raised me, like my best friend in a way, he was shot and killed in my neighborhood. So this is all in a 2-month span. Right. So we get evicted. My grandmom has cancer. My cousin, brother, he gets murdered August 4th. You know, you got to go back to school 2 weeks later. I'm like, oh, man. And I go back to school, and I work really hard that summer. Like, I was in really good shape, trying to hold it together. And then my grandmother died while we were in preseason. So at the time, I didn't know what was wrong. Now they call it depression, right? Back then, I just knew, I don't know what's up with me.
Right.
Right. But I can't sleep at night. I'm exhausted during the day. I lost a bunch of weight. I'm not playing well for obvious reasons. I'm concerned about my other family back home. And my coach, he just, you know, he wasn't very empathetic during that time. I remember a quote, him saying, I don't feel sorry for you. I just want to win basketball games. Right.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, yep. So that was his thing. And I went home to bury my grandmother. And I thought about not going back. I really wasn't going to go back. But before she passed, I promised her that I would graduate from college. And that was the only reason I went back. That was it. And so, you know, I went back and then I ended up transferring to another school just to get my last year in. Because I didn't want to kind of like be around them anymore. And I don't know, that was it.
It was a toxic situation is what it sounds like. Yeah, for sure, yep. How did you get through that season, or did you?
That was tough.
Because, and your story reminds me of a whole lot. Like, I know mine specifically, I lost both of my grandmothers in 2-week time frame in preseason. My sophomore year. And looking back on it, I didn't have time to. I think that I just pushed it to the back and I just never dealt with it. Because it's preseason. Right. You don't have time for that. I was terrified to ask my coach to go home.
Right, yep.
Because I could lose my spot. I could fall back in the line. And those are things that as athletes, student athletes, that is not talked about enough.
Right.
Because no matter what happens the day before, the night before, the week before, you're still expected to perform.
Right.
To win games.
Right.
Because that's what's important, right? So talk about that season for you mentally.
It was a strain on me, physically, psychologically, mentally, the whole nine. But it was one of the greatest blessings of my life in hindsight. Like, it wasn't intended to be a blessing. I think it was intended to destroy me, to be honest, right? Like it does so many young people. But my faith in God grew so much during that time, right? Because once you realize, like, nobody's coming to save you, one, and then two, when I realized not only are they not coming to save you, right, they don't even care that you're down. Like, then I reverted back to, like, this other person, like the guy, the kid that I was, or like the fighter, the kid that grew up, like, in that environment. And I said, oh, no, F that. No, I got something for y'all. I'm going to be back. Watch this. Right. So I started being, like, rebellious in that way. So, first you're like the victim. All right, I'm the victim. Woe is me. And I am a victim. I am a victim. I should have had support, right? But I didn't. And then once I get past that, or I guess got past that, then my other side came out. So then I wanted to wage war. I don't know who I was waging war on.
It'd be like that.
Yeah, but I'm like, no, I'm coming back.
Somebody gonna get it.
Right, yeah. So I wasn't playing a lot. I was like the fourth point guard, right, on the team. And some of those guys were good, but at the end of the day, like, I had enough talent to play 15 years professionally. So I don't know that I should be fourth at a Division II university, right?
Right.
And then I just start putting into my head, you know what? I'm gonna become a good basketball player because they don't think I can. And that just drove me. Like, obsessively drove me.
Obviously, if it got you 15 years in the league,
right,
anywhere.
Right.